Hello and welcome to the video. This is episode 3 of 100 Moons in Swiftclan, which is a series where I will illustrate the cats of my Clangen game and narrate their lives over the first 100 moons of the game. For this episode, we will be focusing on the Mediators of Swiftclan. But first, a content warning. This series might include mentions of violence, murder, animal death, kitten death, illness, complicated relationships, and drama. If you find any of these subjects uncomfortable to listen to, feel free to click away. Otherwise, let's get into it. Hatchow was a cat of some standing in their previous clan. He was a general when a disgraced hailfruit was placed under his dominion. But as he got to know the young warrior, he realized her story was unlike any other. Hailfruit spoke about horrible visions seen by Riverspot, and one clan's own dismissal of these warnings. These stories struck him like claws down his spine. He had seen many conflicts in his time, and he knew the feeling of looming danger. So, he helped Hailfruit, subtly undermining the oppression of one clan, spreading the word of warning, and he fled with the others when the time came. Having been the highest ranked of their group, it might have been natural for him to become leader of their new clan. But Hatchow had no ambition for the role. Instead, he supported Hailstar in her ascent to leadership and dutifully accepted the role of deputy, where he hoped his years of experience might help the fledgling clan thrive. But there was still much to learn. This new territory was made of grass and plains, open swaths of land filled with prey, but lacking in shelter. Attacks from above were a new and dangerous threat that he and the clan had to face. After a particularly bad attack from a hawk, Hatchow decided to step down as deputy and instead take on the role of mediator, a role where his aging body and weak bones didn't matter as much. As a mediator, his day-to-day life changed a fair bit. Where before his role was deeply entrenched in camp duties and assignments, now it dealt with crossing borders and speaking to enemies and friends alike. It was a freeing experience, and one he quite enjoyed as the moons passed. And then things changed again. While returning from a trip to Lightning Clan, Hatchow found a tiny kitten, sick and all alone. Naturally, he took it back to Swiftclan to be seen by Riverspot. The clan speculated that Raccoon Kit was actually Hatchow's own kit from a cross-clan romance. But these rumors were cut short when Raccoon Kit passed from kitten cough. To lose a kit, even one just found, is a heavy thing, and one he mourned with dignity. But life moves on, and that is a lesson Hatchow learned well before Swiftclan, and part of moving forward is embracing the present and the living. So he is honest in expressing his interest in Hailstar, and respects the she-cat when she doesn't return his feelings. To grow old is a blessing, and one Hatchow feels more and more with each sunrise and sunset. Feeling his time grows near, Hatchow takes on an apprentice in Mallowpaw, who is a fast study, and soon earns his own mediator name of Mallowtail. And it is in his sleep, at peace, when Hatchow finds himself waking not to another day, but to the faces of those he lost, made up of glittering stars. Malekith was born in the freezing snow, far from Swiftclan's camp. He and his siblings, Lizard Kit and Sleepy Kit, would have died that same night had Riverspot not found them. The story goes that Lambsplash had felt ashamed of her litter for some unknown reason, and had left camp to birth them and raise them alone. However, all alone, Lambsplash died giving life to Malekith and his siblings. But she wasn't done. Lambsplash's spirit refused the peace of StarClan, and instead flew back to camp in order to lead the Medicine Cat Riverspot to her newborn kits, saving them from certain death. It is a fantastical story, and one told with sadness by all who knew Malekith's mother. However, Malekith and his siblings were not alone. Windfern took over as their guardian, raising them as if they were her own kits. With such care, they had a safe and happy kittenhood, though young Malekith often found his littermates annoying. When it came time to be apprenticed, Malekith sought to make a name of his own, away from his siblings. To this end, he asked to be apprenticed to Hatchhowl, and learned to become a mediator rather than a warrior. And he proved to be an attentive student. Motivated by pride and Hatchhowl's praise, he worked hard, and soon earned his full name of Mallowtail, and is recognized as a mediator in his own right. While advancing on his path toward becoming a clan mediator, Mallowtail's siblings had stuck close to each other. First, as apprentices, and then as warriors. Blizzard Thud and Sleepy Spore practically shared the same pelt, so it's hardly a wonder that they would both share ailments like fleas. Not that he is lonely or anything. Mallowtail is a mediator. It is his job to talk to cats day in and day out. How could he possibly be lonely? But as the moons pass, and Mallowtail works to keep his clan from clawing each other apart over the smallest slight, he has to admit he feels like he is an outsider in his own clan. Some sort of third party that only ever interacts with problems and is overlooked in moments of joy. And then Sleepy Spore vanishes. His sister was taken by two legs. Mallowtail is faced with the loss of something he hadn't ever allowed himself to want, a bond with his siblings. How do you mourn what you never chose to have? His brother Blizzard Thud is still here, but despite Mallowtail's skill with words, he can't seem to find the right thing to say to the warrior. Then, against all odds, Sleepy Spore returns to the clan like a Star Clan gifted ghost, and Mallowtail fights not to rush his sister. He thinks, perhaps, now he and his littermates can truly grow close. He missed her so much. She must have missed him too, right? But he needn't have worried. Sleepy Spore has stories of friends and adventures aplenty to keep her company. It seems her adventure was an enriching experience, and she had little time to miss her distant brother. But that is fine. Mallowtail will have his paws full going forward as the sole mediator of Swiftclan after all, now that his old mentor and colleague Hatchhowl has passed into the paws of StarClan. Mallowtail has his work. He doesn't need family, a thought he soon regrets when faced with the still body of his sister Sleepy Spore. His sister had only just returned after being lost, and now she is gone again? How can she be dead? A snakebite? Something so small ended his sister's life? Mallowtail is filled with regret for all the things he never said to her, the time he never gave her. And while it means nothing to a grave, Mallowtail makes the time now that she is gone to leave Sleepy Spore's favorite prey, a robin, on her grave, hoping the gift will find her in StarClan and carry with it all the love he never let himself share. But Mallowtail has little time to mourn for what could have been. Tension is rising between the clans, and no matter what Mallowtail says, he can't stop the whispers of war. And then the fire happens, not only killing their only medicine cat, but causing their leader, Hailstar, to spiral. Mallowtail works to keep the clan together in the aftermath, but the clan is in chaos. One leader steps down and another steps up. Mallowtail advises the new leader, Popstar, to tread carefully for the sake of the clan. Border skirmish after border skirmish keeps cats on edge. A tinge of violence haunts the air around the camp, and Mallowtail feels helpless to soothe his clanmates. The weight of his responsibility to the clan weakens Mallowtail. He struggles with bouts of white cough. Stress and worry slow his recovery even further, and he grows thin and frail. But there is a spark of happiness that keeps him going. For moons, Mallowtail has been slowly building something between himself and Frondfreckle, but the handsome Tom is a rather hot commodity in the small clan. Still, Mallowtail is not above using his wit and charm to make the Tom his own. However, nothing good can ever last, and his escape of romance is shredded as war breaks out between Lightning Clan and Swift Clan. It is a harsh mercy from StarClan that the war is short-lived, taking only a single apprentice's life. The repercussions of the war show themselves most clearly between Droplet Burrow and Tadpolefoot. The mates have always been on opposite sides. Droplet Burrow is in fervent support of conflict, and the nervous deputy Tadpolefoot shrinks away from violence. But now that their own kit died in the war, their relationship seems even more like another battlefield, rather than a place of love. Yet Droplipper refuses to let the bond go. Whether that is out of pride or desperation, Mallowtail doesn't know. All he can do as a mediator is try and help them work toward a better future. And a second pair of paws might be just what the clan and Mallowtail needs. So when J-Paw asks to be his apprentice, he accepts the young Tom. But he begins to wonder if that was a mistake when J-Paw mucks up a resolution Mallowtail had gotten with TangleClan. He had just gotten the neighboring clan to agree. How could things have changed so quickly? What did J-Paw do? But his reservations are ignored. And Mallowtail watches as Popstar names J Thistle a mediator of Swiftclan. Mallowtail knows J Thistle isn't ready, and honestly might not be suited for the calling of a mediator at all. But is Mallowtail even suited? He wonders, sometimes, if he has ever made a difference to the clan with his work. Such thoughts are all the more heavy at times like these, after his failure to negotiate for needed herbs cost a sick cat their life. As a kit, J Thistle's origins were unknown. He had been found by Crestnoise, and the resemblance between the two was striking. However, Crestnoise said J-Kit was not his, and so the clan took the Tom at his word. And J-Kit was a bold kitten. He often chose to ask for forgiveness rather than permission for his actions, and often chose to keep his misbehaviors to himself. After all, if no one ever asked or knew, then had he ever really broken the rules? When he reached 6 moons of age and had to choose his apprentice path, he chose to become a mediator apprenticed under Mallowtail. He found that a world of words and sly interpretations suited him much more than a brutish role like a warrior ever could. Despite his mentor's clear reservations about him, J-Paw worked, rather well as a mediator apprentice, and soon earned himself a full name as J Thistle, and was quickly entrusted with solo mediation tasks early on by the leader. Having such an important role pleased him greatly. And that is where we're going to leave off for this video. And I suppose it's a good time to say that not all of the cats that will be featured in this series have particularly interesting or long lives, for that matter. And J Thistle's kind of one of them. He exists, he does some things, but as far as these 100 moons go, there's just not a lot to say. And Mallowtail, he ended up having a lot more to say than I thought he would, considering I maybe, perhaps, sort of, kind of forgot that he was a mediator until I was looking back on my notes. And, sometimes that's just how it goes. You never know who's going to be important when you're playing the game until it's all over, I guess. Unless you force it a little bit because you really like one of the characters, which you will see later on, once we hit the Warriors, which the first Warriors episode is next, I promise. But I'm guessing some of you guys can probably guess who my favorite character is already. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you're staying safe out there. Have a good one. Bye!